All right, that's enough of all that. UnHappy Wednesday, folks, coming to you live once again from our humble abode. This is the UnHappy Gilmore Show, powered by Green Legion Radio and part of the Green Legion Radio family. We thank you, as always, for joining us from wherever you may be and whatever device you're using to stream us on YouTube. So please pull up a chair, turn up the volume if I'm not quite loud enough for you. Use the company dime if, God forbid, you're still stuck at work. Crack open a cold one if that's your thing on a Wednesday night. And let's try to have some fun as we put an end to day 3 of this week's hostage situation and look forward to tomorrow being Friday Eve. I see David Loeb and Lou Mancini in the room already. What's up, fellas? Go Birds, says David. Damn right, 2-0. And Lou Mancini, what up? Lou Mancini. Lou always tries to guess our boner of the week. And he's usually pretty good at it. And this week he nailed it on the head, so we'll get to that in just a few. Far cry from last week. We were a little emotional coming into the show for good reason. So, we turned the page. Obviously, you don't forget, but life does go on, and we have to keep things moving. So here we are. We did have another death this week. Robert Redford, 89 years old. The Natural. What was he? What else was he? Sundance Kid too, I believe. But yeah, The Natural, who a lot of people, I know a lot of people think that that's the best baseball movie ever made. I don't share that sentiment. It is one of my favorites, but I don't have exactly that same feel where some folks think it's the best. I'm a Field of Dreams, top of the list guy. It's all personal preference once you get to that echelon of sports and baseball movies. Why? Okay. Yeah, people, enough for now. Anyways, let's get down to the business thing here. Michelle's favorite part of the show. She just came back in from walking Neo. We are proudly sponsored by Cheerleaders Gentlemen's Club, located at 2740 South Front Street in Philadelphia. Cheerleaders brings you the area's most beautiful women on 5 different stages. Open 7 days a week from noon until 2 a.m. and until 4 a.m. on Fridays and Saturdays. For group information, call 215-467-1980. Also offering free parking, a full menu, daily drink and food specials, and a premium selection of cigars and a cigar lounge. If you can't get tickets to the bank, and Lord knows right now as we tick-tock down towards the postseason, congratulations to your Phillies on a National League East title. But if you can't get out to the bank and you can't get down to the link because you don't want to sell a kidney for Birds tickets, head on over to Cheerleaders and enjoy the 75-foot HD TV wall, as well as HD TV screens throughout the entire club. Once again, folks, that's Cheerleaders Gentlemen's Club, located at 2740 South Front Street in Philadelphia. Call 215-467-1980 for all of your group and party information. As always, people, scrolling at the bottom of this screen right here, greenlegion.com. Folks, if you're looking to get out on the road to catch the Birds, if you're looking to do a home tailgate and you're not quite sure where to go, head over to greenlegion.com. Click on trips and tailgates. Find what you're looking for, whether it's going to Dallas, going to LA, going to Buffalo, going to Minnesota, going to Tampa. Although a bunch of these are already sold out, you can still, if you're in those areas, hop on with our game day packages, which which is pep rally the night before the game, tailgate day of, as well as game tickets. If you wanted to try to get out on the road to hang with UnHappy Gilmore, I will be in Minneapolis in 1 month. I think it's a month, like almost to the day. Then I'll be heading off to Minneapolis, and Michelle and I both will be in Dallas for that game. Weird that we're going to do Kelly Green on the road, but so be it. But those are your options if you want to hang with us. If you were not, if you're just looking to get out on the road, you will not find a better option, folks, in business for a quarter of a century almost. Best in the business, the original, the only way to do it, greenlegion.com. All right. Well, we got some good stuff for you tonight. I actually had the time to type up a run sheet, which I've not had the time to really do a whole lot of that. The last couple of months have been a little busy, albeit with Grady leaving, Grady coming to work with me for a while. Just the emphasis was more on, family stuff and whatnot. Some of you who've been with me for a little while, I've put a lot of effort into dropping a few pounds there in the off season before we got to the debauchery of the bird season. Have been successful in doing that. I've been a little bit of a slacker over the past week, though, and I've got to get back on track. So starting tomorrow, we'll be getting back on track with that. Don't want to destroy all the good that I've done over the last, call it since March, basically 6 months, where I've been down just about 40 pounds. So feeling good and want to keep it that way. But we do have some fun for you tonight. Lou Mancini, what do you got? You're a Field of Dreams guy. Yeah, well, I mean, that's my bag too, dude. I've got shit all over the place here. I've got let's see here. This is a bottle of dirt from the field, from the actual Field of Dreams. This is a ball signed by the Ghost players. So they do a game there. I forget what their schedule is, but the Ghost players go out and play a game. This is a ball signed by all the Ghost players at the time. Hanging on my wall out in front of me here that you can't see, it's shaped like home plate. It is made out of the original deck boards from the house, from the Field of Dreams house. And on it, painted in white, it says, "Is this heaven?" No, it's Iowa. The O in Iowa is shaped like the state of Iowa. So you could say I'm a little bit of a Field of Dreams fan. I've been there twice with my boys. Fantastic experience. If you ever have the opportunity, I'd suggest going. If you haven't been there, then you did miss out on when it was just kind of just the movie site field and house. They've commercialized it now with the MLB playing games, not on the field that from the movie, but kind of just a short walk up a path is where that field is. They're also going to develop a huge complex out beyond the outfield on the other side of the cornfields for Little League tournaments and stuff like that. So it's a really cool place. We got this last summer. We got to go as part of the MLB ballpark passport program that we're all a part of. The gentleman who runs that puts together an event called a Stampede every year. It's usually at Great American Ballpark here in Cincinnati. The gentleman is from Middletown, which is a couple towns north of me. Big Reds fan, but every so often that event is at the Field of Dreams. So we got to spend the entire day there, play a softball game. We got to tour the house, cookout, and then we closed the night. They turned off all the lights on the field, set up its ginormous inflatable screen, and we watched the movie Field of Dreams sitting on the Field of Dreams, which was just unforgettable. It's a day I'll never forget. I know that for sure. So that's my little spiel about that. You could say I'm a little bit of a fan. Scott Calcaterra in the room. What's up, my brother? Let's go. One final thing before we get off and rolling here. If any of our folks from our Midwest Eagles nest, and that includes Scott, if any of you watching now or watch later, I just want to tell you how awesome all of you are. When the Eagles came here to Cincy last year, and played the Bengals, we used that as a massive recruiting opportunity, and it paid off huge. We had been averaging for bigger games, like against Dallas or something like that, we would get 30, 35, maybe 40 people on the high end, maybe 50. The Super Bowl 2022, the one we lost to the Chiefs, that had been our high watermark. I think we had 75 people there that night. The week after we played Cincy, we played Dallas, and we ended up with almost 80 people at the back porch that day. And right there, we knew that all the recruiting efforts had paid off, and it was kind of like, okay, we've arrived. And so, you guys have heard the stories before. Last year's playoffs, I think the opening round we had like 130, and then it went up to like 170 to 200 by the almost 200 by the NFC Championship. By the time the Super Bowl came around, we had sold out. Well, not sold. We had reserved every table, every seat in the back porch. We did not do any standing room. Every seat in the back porch was taken 8 days before the game. Yeah. So, and then come into this year, we're going to open on a Thursday night. It's still a school night. Get it? 130 people show up. Week 2 was about 95 to 100. And right now it looks like we're going to be roughly the same for this coming Sunday. This coming Sunday, picture day for the group. I know some folks can't make it, and I understand, but I got to do these things earlier in the year than I had been. Because of the size of the group, we need to be outside to do it. Trying to do this inside the back porch just doesn't work. We need to be outside, and so we're doing it this coming Sunday. Not to say that we won't take other pictures throughout the year, but before I go too far down a rabbit hole, Scott and a lot of our other regulars and our OGs and the folks that are new that are coming back again this year who just started coming to hang out with us in the playoffs, or it's their first time or whatever. The signups are great. Your communication's been awesome so far, and I just want to tell you how appreciative I am. Thank you so much for that. So, how the hell are you guys? Like I said, we moved past last week to try to keep it a little bit more light and sports related this week. So, what do we got here? Scott got a new bird coming out to the nest for the first time. Justin McNally and his wife. Scott, I think you told me you were not going to be here this week, correct? Correct me if I'm wrong. I think you said you had prior obligations for this coming Sunday. I think it was this Sunday, but just let me know. I'll be sending out an email to everyone who signed up for this week. That'll come after this show tonight. And then I got to start working on the seating chart. So it never stops. Okay, so Parents Weekend at OU. That's right. That's right. I could not remember whether I was fuzzy on whether it was this weekend or next weekend. I think I got you and Josh flip-flopped. Josh is here this weekend, away next weekend. You're away this weekend. Okay, I'm good. One of these days I'll get it all right. But anyways, let's get off and rolling here. So the boner of the week. Sometimes it can be the most fun part of the show. Sometimes it's a little bit of a stretch. I can tell you through the summer it gets hard to reach for content. But once football starts, man, things just kind of roll. Blue Mancini, as I mentioned earlier, is usually pretty good about guessing what the boner of the week is going to be. He hit the nail on the head with this one. And as always, folks, we could have gone a number of different ways, right? For those of you not aware of what the boner of the week is, this is where I find someone in the world of sports, usually in the world of sports, be it a player, a coach, a ref, somebody's relative, an owner, a broadcaster, a sports reporter, something. Somebody somewhere does something galactically stupid, and I dub them the boner of the week. This week was no exception, and like I said, could have gone a bunch of different ways, but there was a certain video that came out just over the last couple of days, and I'll thank my son Liam for showing it to me. Welcome to the show, Kansas City Swifties defensive lineman Chris Jones. I don't know if any of you guys have seen this video. If you have not, just Google search Chris Jones, Jalen Hurts, and you'll see the exchange. It was absolutely fantastic. So this crybaby for the Swifties, throwing an absolute fit about the game, the brotherly shove, etc. Right? We all saw he had the nerve in his post game to cry about officiating, like those losers don't get calls all the time, right? Let's take a look at that roughing the passer call, which was an absolute crock of shit. Like, come on, Chris. We all know you guys get calls. So then so I'd seen all that. So then we see this video that Liam Brisby's dad, you got to see this. And this is what sealed it for me. So the Birds are lined up in the victory. If you've not seen it, please allow me. The Birds are lined up in the victory formation. Game's over. We're just going to kneel on it. Jalen saunters up to the line. Chris Jones is kind of just standing there, and he's irate. He's pissed, right? Look, we've beaten them 3 straight times now. 2023 in Kansas City, the Super Bowl, and now this past Sunday. So he's pissed. We brotherly shoved them left and right, and we'll get into more of that when I get to the first real next segment of the show when we talk about officiating. He's standing there, he's throwing a fit, and he says, man, you didn't even get he's looking at Jalen. You didn't even get 100 yards. And Jalen Hurts, our QB1, gold C on the chest for 5 years as a captain now, steps back for a second, stands up straight for a second, looks Chris Jones dead in the face, and fires back with, we won the fucking game. Shut your ass up. I mean, if you can't look at that, especially as a Birds fan, appreciate it and laugh, I don't know what's wrong there. And you can see Jones was pissed. He had nothing to say. I'm sure he grumbled something else. The video kind of cuts off after that. But, it's the truth. Yeah, no, he didn't have 100 yards. And the truth of it is, Jalen actually did have 101 yards. Nothing spectacular. But, just sick burn, right? We won the effing game. Shut your ass up. I mean, just bang, right between the eyes. Absolutely beautiful response from our QB1. So there's your boner of the week. Chris Jones goes up, doesn't even have the quote right, doesn't even have the yardage right. Not that these guys are paying much attention to that when they're on the field, but still funny to see that he had no clue. Jalen shuts him down in a heartbeat. He's crying up a storm after the game about officiating. A Chiefs player of all people bitching about officiating. Like, are you serious right now? Yeah. We will, however, give another honorable mention for the boner of the week to Mr. Taylor Swift for his antics, throwing fits on the sidelines, blah, blah, blah. But Chris Jones took the absolute cake for me. Once I saw that video, that was it. There was somebody would have had to do something just Olympic caliber screwed up to top that for me. So welcome to the show, Chris Jones. You are officially our boner of the week. Scott, Jalen's response was outstanding. I laughed. When I tell you, I went into work, showed everybody, will you look at this? But it's, that boner of the week worked because, well, it was deserved. It also works as kind of a segue into our first real topic of the night. When you look at the NFL and the officiating and the rules. So the other thing we had was, it seems like we come back to this topic at least once a season, and not to complain so much as to, you point out the glaring issues, right? You all know, those of you that have been around and have been with the show for a while, and you've seen this topic come up, and even going back to when we were doing Right on Cue when it was Quimby and I and Super Sam. My stance has been, if you want to improve the officiating, first of all, it would be incredibly difficult because the game has never been bigger, faster, or stronger. right? Like these guys are moving out there and they're huge. But if you want to at least make an attempt to improve it, I think you have to get younger refs. All right. And this is not to knock um, what the current guys are doing. These are guys who are in their 50s, some in their 60s, and they're running up and down this field trying to keep up with these athletes. And it's impressive. Okay. I'm not going to knock that at all. The bottom line is they're just not able to completely keep up with it. And I don't even know that the human eye can keep up with the speed of which this game is played now. So you get bad calls, you get missed calls. I would go so far as to tell you, I think that the poor calls have always been there. It's just that now there are cameras literally everywhere. You got the one on the wire coming down the field. There's like 3 or 6 or whatever it is in the end zone pylons. Which, if you're going to put them somewhere, right down the goal line, that's where you want it. But the fact that we're seeing so much more of the game now via camera angles, it really puts these refs in a pretty bad spot. And the league itself doesn't do much to rectify that. When you look at how they treat the refs, there are a few that are hired on full-time NFL employees. The overwhelming majority, lion's share, whatever way you want to call it, are considered part-time. They're contracted. These guys are school teachers, they're lawyers, they're businessmen, whatever. This is not their full-time gig. They're not offered any sort of medical or any kind of benefits through the NFL. So when you treat them that way, you don't, trying to attract dudes to come do this job, it becomes more difficult. If they want to get younger, okay, we'll use that. If they want to get younger, they need to hire them as NFL employees and offer those benefits to these people, right? Then I think you can attract some, people with younger families, shit like that. Just the way they treat it right now, there's no incentive for these guys to do this. But for the fact that these older guys just kind of love it. It's what they did. It's what they enjoy doing. And look, I think they're as good as they can possibly be at it right now. I just think we're seeing, like I said, so many more camera angles that and then the speed with which they can slow these views down. Look, when you talk about what's a catch and what isn't, did he have control? Guys, girls, if you slow down a play enough, you will see the ball move no matter what. There has to be a limit. My friend Dave Conant, who is off the grid this week, he's enjoying a quiet time down in Tennessee. He has said it a number of times, and not just football, but baseball, any sport. Give them 60 seconds or 90 seconds or whatever to look at it. If they can't make an obvious change in a call within that amount of time, the call on the field stands and you just move on. And I agree with it. I think too much, it's just too much. Lou Mancini, this argument about refs was active when I was in my 20s. Pay them like full-time employees. But, that's the one portion of it. Then what you have is you also have to hear while we're watching these broadcasts, you also have to hear from the network experts on this. I oftentimes feel like these guys, like 90% of what comes out of their mouths is it feels like their opinion rather than fact. I'm not trying to knock them entirely, but a lot of it feels like if you turned on a news station, you're not here. We talked about this last week at the opening when I went berserk. You're not hearing fact. You're not hearing news. You're hearing opinions. And I think this is somewhat that way. The most notable guys, you have Dean Blandino with Fox, Gene Steratore with CBS, Terry McCauley with Amazon, and Russell Yerk with ESPN. So when there's a questionable call and the coach throws the red flag, your commentators, whoever, whatever station, Burkhart and Brady with Fox, use that as an example, they'll bring in for Fox Dean Blandino to give his opinion or analysis on what he believes is going to transpire or what he sees. This week we had Dean Blandino come out and make statements about the brotherly shove. All right. And that's kind of the turn we're going to take here with this topic as we look at officiating and rules. You know my stance on the officials and how they should be treated. The rules, it used to be a rule where you could not push or pull the ball carrier at all. Right? So this past offseason, there were 2 votes on outlawing the brotherly shove. The first of which was basically just outlawing that play, and that went nowhere, right? The second one was the Green Bay Packers put on the table to go back to the old rules. And Lou Mancini and a couple other guys, I'm sure you remember, well, I think I remember, I don't know how sure everyone else is, but I know I remember talking about the way it was worded when the Packers put that up for a vote, got that pushed for a vote. I thought they were going to outlaw it. And the way it was worded was, we want to eliminate a team's ability to push or pull a ball carrier, right? So I don't think you're allowed to pull them forward anyways, but they wanted to outlaw pushing a ball carrier at any point in the game. Anything, so they weren't specifically attacking our play. They were trying to get rid of that sort of function altogether. The understanding at the time had to be, well, how many times do you see a runner get stood up at the goal line on a sweep play or something, and somebody comes over and just smashes the whole pile straight into the end zone? It's a touchdown. That would go away as well. That vote almost passed this past offseason. It failed, but not by much. It's been my belief since then that once we get to next offseason, that will be back on the table, and we won't be able to do the tush push anymore. I did not expect the NFL and these rules expert guys to take the path that they are trying to take right now. At least it's the way it feels to me, and I want to hear your opinion on it. Dean Blandino, the Fox analyst, expert, whatever, called that play impossible to officiate, citing the inability to truly see the ball carrier, or whatever. So he says, "I'm done with it. It's impossible to officiate." So the angle they're trying to take is not just the rule change to outlaw people being shoved, a ball carrier being shoved in any capacity. They're back to kind of specifically targeting this play as unable to officiate. And if there was any doubt that it was, if you didn't think that the vote would pass next offseason, I think what you're seeing now should probably change your mind. So what I would tell all of you, and Lou Mancini, I wholeheartedly agree with you. Learn to stop it, period. I understand. But I would tell all of you is enjoy the play for what it is this year, because come next football season, it's not going to be there. They're going to get it taken away. Now, I think it would be a little screwed up if they took it away mid-season, now that the year has already started, or if they did some bullshit where we're going to change the rules for the playoffs, or whatever. I think at this point the season started. The rules are what they are. Teams have prepared or whatever, including us, to be able to use this play and or try to defend this play. And I think you have to at least let it go for the 2025 season. Once we get to next offseason, though, that vote is going to be back on the table. And I think the Birds might be the only team that votes against outlawing it. So enjoy it while it lasts, but I don't really see it being around after this year. Josh, we have enough technology to officiate any kind of play. I tend to agree with you, brother, and I agree with Lou. Just figure out how to stop it. The unfortunate thing we've got right now is if you look at some of the camera angles from Sunday, we are lined up in the neutral zone. And our guards are starting to shoot before the ball is even snapped. And the ball is not out ahead of Juergens. He's over it, which means from here up is out over into the neutral zone. It's technically offsides on the offense with the way Juergens is lined up. And, and then the guard shooting out ahead of it before the ball is even snapped would be a false start. So, Lou, I agree. Learn how to stop it. Josh, I do agree. The technology should be there to be able to officiate any play. It's just not going to go that way. So we need to use this play to our advantage where necessary. I don't want to see them come out and line up on 1st and 10 and do it. That would piss me off because now eventually you can't just keep doing it every play, right? You've got to have a specific time, and we usually do. Josh, I saw the false argument. I kind of agree with that. Yeah, I mean, it's, and it is. We're egregious. Now, I think what you're going to see, especially with Blandino making these statements, the camera angles that have come out, the obvious, I mean, it's obvious. We're breaking rules, guys. Like, it's the truth. You are going to see refs start cracking down on it harder going forward through this season. We're going to have to be clean with it. So if I'm the Eagles, I am probably trying to figure out variations of this to catch these teams off guard. Maybe it's a and Jalen flips it out because the whole defense is going to converge. Flip it out to Saquon on the edge and let him run around the edge. And who knows, maybe he's gone for a touchdown. I don't know, but we're going to have to start now. We're going to have to right now, start adjusting to life without it because they're not likely to be able to outlaw it without, an official vote, which wouldn't come till the offseason. But they are likely to crack down rules-wise and just start penalizing us, even if it's questionable. And yes, Josh, 100% agree here too. Or we trust Saquon. Or we trust A.J. Dillon. QB sneaks have been done forever without this particular scrum play. Jalen Hurts still squats 600 pounds, guys. That's still a huge offensive line out in front of him. So maybe you line up to just QB sneak it and let the defense jump off. Whatever way you cut it, we're going to have to figure out a way to start moving on from it. And the sooner we start getting used to life without it, I think the better off we're going to be. The last thing I want to see is just stubbornness, where we just keep going out and trying to do exactly what we did against Kansas City, continue to get flagged for it, and then Nick has to go in front of a press conference and he looks like an idiot. So I don't want to see that either. Keenan Harmon in the room. What's up, brother? Target to the party. We could probably win 10 out of 10 times using a traditional quarterback sneak lineup. Yeah, exactly. Scott Calcaterra. Let's also discuss how the TV coverage cameras suck and you can no longer see plays develop. The camera seems to only be on the cute quarterback or running back. Then when they realize it's a pass, they finally adjust. That's fair. We're going to talk about some camera shit here in a few minutes, too, when we get to our game. But 2 rules that before we close out of the rules and officiating thing. Josh knows this. Josh has been coming and hanging out with me watching college football on Saturdays. There are 2 rules that are active on Saturdays for college football that I would like to see the NFL adopt. The first and foremost is defensive pass interference. For those of you that don't know, defensive pass interference in the NFL is a spot foul. So if I'm Patrick Mahomes and I can throw the ball 60 yards and I'm under duress and I'm just going to heave one, I can get a flag downfield, 50, 60 yards downfield, and that ball is a first down and it's placed at the spot of the foul, regardless of how far downfield it is. It's not that way in college. College rule, if the foul happens inside of 15 yards, it is an automatic first down and a spot foul. Okay? If the foul happens more than 15 yards downfield, it is an automatic first down and a 15-yard penalty. So same scenario, Mahomes just heaves it, and Hollywood Brown gets hacked. They throw the flag. Sure, it's still a first down, but he doesn't get 50 yards out of it. He gets 15. Why they haven't adopted that yet, I don't know. They throw that DPI flag frequently, enough to where they should really be looking at putting this rule into place. The other one I would say they need to look at, well, and the DPI thing, it rewards the offense for a shitty play, right? When you see that heave downfield, unless it's a design drop back and okay, I've got time, and I'm just, it's the setup play. If it's some broken play where the quarterback is under duress and he's just letting one fly, you should not reward the offense for a play that they got blown up on, right? So if you want to still call the pass interference on that, fine. 15 yards and a first down, not 50 and a first down. Huge difference. The other one, roughing the passer / targeting, whatever way you want to call it. 15-yard penalty, automatic first down, no problem there. I think these should go to the booth, okay? College rule, if the officials feel that it may be targeting, we'll use targeting as an example. This is where the defender is going to come up and lead with the crown of his helmet, try to jump into it like that. If they feel like it's there, they're taught to throw the flag. Call it targeting. It automatically goes to the booth for a review, and then is either upheld or taken away. Now, the unfortunate part in college is if it is upheld, the kid gets thrown out. I don't want to see that happen at the NFL level. And I really wish they would kind of, adjust that a bit for only specifically really egregious at college level. But I still think the rule could go a long way in the NFL. So take, for example, our game this past Sunday. Ref throws the flag for roughing the passer. They showed that replay on the screen. It was not roughing the passer. Now, I get it. The very next play, we absolutely blew him up and there was no flag. It was, let's just make it up for it. Well, it doesn't, because you've already awarded them 15 yards and a first down for something that didn't happen. So throw the flag for roughing the passer. Let someone take a look at it and see if it should be upheld or not. And again, I would stick to the rule. 60 seconds, 90 seconds, and then if I can't overturn it, if I can't obviously overturn it, fuck it. The rule on the field stand, calling on the field stands, and we move on. That would be the way I would approach it. Josh again here. We also need to lose this narrative that removing that one play will affect our team that much. I love that line of thought. Now, look, will it affect some situations? Of course it will. But I think some people look at it as, and I'm not even talking about just anti-Birds fans. I'm talking about people of our own ilk that look at this as, oh, man, we get rid of that. What are we going to do on 3rd and 1? We're going to fucking run the ball, okay, traditionally, and get the first down, right? Or you're going to play action pass and, get Jalen out on a rollout, and maybe he runs for it. He dumps it off to Calcaterra. Something along those lines, right? I like that line of thought, Josh. I don't like this thing that we feel like we're beholden to needing this play just to pick up short yardage, right? I think it's fun to have. I don't think it's fun for the players to run. Kelsey talks about it. He's like, you ever try to run that play? Jesus Christ. But that's kind of my spiel on the officiating and the rules and stuff. So to sum that section up there, enjoy what we've seen. I hope you've enjoyed that play. And look, Scott, Josh, the rest of our Midwest Eagles nest, you guys know that play comes on, you can hear me screaming all across the restaurant. I'm stomping my foot. Mush, mush. It's fun, but it's about to go away. They may not be able to change the rule during the season, but they are likely to change the way they're officiating it starting this week. So hopefully Patullo is looking at ways to get around that, because we're going to have to get used to life without it. All right. Moving on. Saturday football, Josh. Here's the so obviously there's a ton of games. Penn State's on a bye, Ohio State's on a bye. So that's number 1 and number 2 in the country. There aren't a whole lot of there's not like your top 10 matchups like we've seen the last couple of weeks. But there's always a handful of games that are definitely worth watching. Josh and I have had a little bit of struggle. We've had to kind of dig a little bit for smaller point spreads in games that you really wouldn't think it to find something at the noon window. Doesn't seem to be the case this time around. Starting right at noon, you got number 17, Texas Tech at number 16, Utah. This is noon on Fox. Utah, the home team by 3.5. You know the rule, 3 for the home team. So Vegas is saying this is a toss-up. And in true Big 12 fashion, the over-under at 58.5. And I'll tell you why. Again, you've heard me say it a billion times. Defense is not really a thing for the Big 12. They just don't do very well with it. Thus the over-under. It's honestly, the way I look at it, going to come down to which offense can execute their game plan a little better. Keenan, I'll get to your question in just a minute. So Texas Tech is going to come into this game. They lead the nation with 23 touchdowns in 3 games. Okay. 14 of those are through the air. That's also number 1 in the country. So it's probably safe to say that the Red Raiders want to, they want to come out and air this thing out all over the field. Utah, on the other hand, comes into this game as the nation's 6th best rushing attack with 870 yards on the ground through 3 games. They're also number 2 in rushing first downs with 52. So they would like to keep it on the ground. So you have that nice clash there where one side's going to try to fire it all over the field. The other side's going to try to take it and stuff it right down your throat. Big 12 don't play a whole lot of defense. I'm looking for some fireworks at noon. I can't tell you who to take here, but Utah's home, but they don't look like they're favored by much for that. So we'll call it a toss-up and just hope for some good football. Keenan, what do you got here? Have you mentioned the hot mic? Yeah. So Chris Jones was our boner of the week, brother. When we get done here, go back and watch the opening. Chris Jones, boner of the week, almost entirely for that specific moment. We won the effing game. Shut your ass up. All right, moving on. 3:30 on ABC. Number 22, Auburn at number 11, Oklahoma. SEC matchup. OU by 6.5 at home. 48.5 for the over. Another early season matchup. 2 top 25 SEC teams. When you watch college football, and Josh, as you've started to watch more of it, I'm sure you can see when you look at even a bunch of the Big Ten matchups, but specifically more when you start looking at like a MAC matchup or something like that. And then you watch an SEC game, the overall speed on the field is just ridiculous. The SEC they fly all over the place. So Auburn is number 2 in the country with 5 forced fumbles and 7 fumbles recovered total. Oklahoma is going to rely on big plays offensively. They're 4th in the country on pass plays over 20 yards. So it's going to be which side gives, right? Auburn's opportunistic defense, or is Oklahoma going to be able to take their big chunk plays up and down the field? I'll take OU at home. I don't know about that over-under. They may go over that. Also at 3:30, number 21, Michigan at Nebraska. All right. So Nebraska's not ranked. They are 3-0. They've got a shot to crack into the top 25 should they pull off a win over Michigan, which I know everybody and their grandmother around here will be rooting for. Michigan by only 2.5 at Nebraska. Tells you what Vegas thinks of this Michigan team and of this Nebraska team, with the over-under only at 45.5. They're not looking for a whole lot of points to be scored here. The Huskers, Nebraska, they are efficient. Number 1 in completion percentage at 79%. So I've not watched the Nebraska game yet, but I'm guessing it's a whole lot of dink and dunk to be able to have that high of a completion percentage. But they're also 6th in the country with 1,099 passing yards. So maybe it's not all dink and dunk, or they just have no semblance of a running game at all. We'll find out on Saturday. Michigan, however, they'll look to stay undefeated with a tough road win. They are 4th in the country with 12 total touchdowns, still 8th in the country with 5 interceptions. So they do score, and again, another opportunistic defense, a little bit of ball hawking going on there. Be interested to see how Michigan handles, heading out to Nebraska for that one. That's 3:30 on CBS/Paramount. Finally, there's tons of games, but these are the ones I just decided to talk about tonight. At 7:30 on NBC Peacock, you have number 9 Illinois at number 19 Indiana, another Big Ten matchup. Indiana by 5.5 at home, over under at 52.5. Very quietly, a pretty important early season Big Ten matchup. In two teams that are not traditionally ranked as far as football goes. Indiana's had a nice few seasons here. Illinois in the top 10 for football, not usually a thing, right? So on the road, out in Indiana, we'll see how they respond. Indiana comes in with the country's second most rushing yards at 923 and 4th in total yards at 1,771. While the Fighting Illini are going to head in there, they are 3rd in quarterback hits and 1st in fumble recoveries. So again, we have an offense in Indiana that likes to move it around, and it looks like a defense that has a very strong front to try to combat that Indiana ground game. I'll probably take the Illini on the road, but anybody's ball game. So those are the ones we're going to focus on for Saturday. We'll see. And I've got 3 TVs up here, 4 if I need it. I can turn my second computer monitor into another screen. If all of a sudden there's a really close, exciting game or there's an upset in the making, whatever the case may be. So there's your college football lineup. Just a few of the games I decided to pick out. Finally, we move on to the varsity. Birds first. Okay. I've been waiting to talk about this. I wanted to I wanted to end the show with just talking birds. Josh, let's go. Hopefully I can stay the entire time this week. Yeah. Well, and part of that was my fault this past Saturday. By the time it got later like that, like my freaking stomach was all twisted up. I don't know what the hell my problem was. I didn't shake that off until sometime Sunday morning. It wasn't any kind of illness. I think I don't know. I must have, it's something I ate or whatever. Something wasn't sitting right, and I needed to just shut it down. But yeah, would be great to be able to get all these games in. We'll see. Work is work, brother. But the Birds, look, I'll start with this: wins are wins. Okay, let's just start right there. We're 2-0. Every week in the NFL is huge. Every week. Yes, some games are bigger than others. Obviously, there's more riding on some games than others. Oh shit! I am not going to read that comment out loud, bro. But when you only play 17 games, every game is important. This isn't like Major League Baseball. There was 162. Or even with that, I would tell you, wins are wins. Basketball and hockey are 82 games. It's the NFL is 17 games. Every game is precious. All right. The start to our season, a little rough. Okay. Opening the year, and albeit we are more talented than Dallas, you expect to win the game. We're more talented than Kansas City, expect to win that too. But to open the year at home against Dallas, Dak coming back healthy, a new weapon in George Pickens, raising a banner right in their face, I'm sure that they were pissed off about. Jalen Carter does his stupid shit to start the game. And then week 2, having to go to Kansas City after taking the belt to their ass in that Super Bowl. You knew they were going to be fired up, and they're good. So even at 0-2, you're not writing off the Chiefs yet. Overall, it doesn't matter how many yards you put up, your completion percentage, whatever. The only stat that ever truly matters, right? We can sit here and talk stats. I can sit here forever and talk stats. The only one that ever truly matters is the score when the clocks reach zeros. That's the only one that really matters. So far, we've come out on top. Now, with that, um, to sit here and think that there might not be a little bit of cause for concern would probably be a little foolish. Um, they are, so I'll throw this one at you. Saquon Barkley is seeing a stacked box, which is 7 or more in that zone, at a higher percentage than any other time in his career. That includes his time with the Giants. The last time he saw, something like this on a consistent basis was 2020 with the Giants. He played 2 games that year. Okay, that's not good. They're showing no respect to Jalen throwing the football, or at least early on. And unfortunately, the first couple of weeks, these defenses are doing the right thing. Now, I do have NFL Plus. I took the liberty the other night on Monday night to watch the all 22 version of our game against the Chiefs. I did not go back and watch the first game against Dallas. I probably should have, but I just haven't had the time. So I watched just the pass plays, and all 22. If you're not aware, it just gives you to get from like the booth. You can see the whole field, right? Each play gives you 2 camera angles. One is the whole field, all the players. The other one is the camera looking dead at the quarterback towards him. I really wish they would give us one from behind him. I don't know if they do. I just didn't play around with it much, but those were the only 2 I saw. So I focused on just pass plays and just the view where I could see the whole play develop. Now, look, I am not going to sit here and try to profess that I'm some sort of NFL game film study expert. But what I can tell you is the play calling, it looks very vanilla. I'm going to call out 3 issues that I saw. All right. And I don't know what you guys saw, if anybody else did this. If you've watched some replays, I know our good friend Captain Demps watches the replay of the games. He does not do the all 22, but I'm sure he's trying to see stuff that maybe he didn't see from where he was sitting at the game. The play calling looks very vanilla, and that has me concerned in the fact that it feels like Nick Sirianni has his hand a little too far in that cookie jar again. Okay. If you guys remember the first couple of games of last year, a whole bunch of 2023, the first half of 2021, this is what our pass offense looked like. When you watch these plays, I don't see a whole lot in the way of creativity to space guys open, things of that nature. And I called this out as a little bit of a concern going into the year, in that our new offensive coordinator, Patullo, he has been part of Nick's coaching staff since Nick took over as head coach. So he's been under Nick the whole time. So the influence is there. And it has me a little concerned. We've all seen a straight up Nick Sirianni offense. It's not great. All right. I like Nick as managing the team. Right. I do not like it when he gets too deep involved in the actual scheming of the offense. It's been proven every time it's been turned over to a competent offensive coordinator, Shane Steichen, Kellen Moore, the offense has taken off. So that's one area of concern, and it shows when you look at that. At some of these plays from this past weekend's game. The other thing I would say is the Chiefs' defense played really, really well. Okay, they were incredibly aggressive up front, which kind of goes into the vanilla play calling. It's like I didn't see a whole lot of adjusting. When you look at the plays before and after halftime, it did not look very much like we were trying to catch them in that, because they stayed aggressive all game long. And it did not look like we tried to scheme anything or had any adjustments to combat that. When you get a defense playing that aggressive, you'd like to see some sort of misdirection. Not a trick play, but something to catch them, let them over pursue and catch them in it, right? And I just didn't see any of it. I felt like I'm happy we stayed with the focus on the ground game, but I'm pretty sure we ran the ball. It felt like every single first down. And every so often, you got to throw wrinkles in there, man. Play action, pass it. Get Jalen out on a bootleg, something, rather than just an off tackle run. So, hats off to the Chiefs defense. They played aggressive. They stuck with it. Their game plan worked. We were very limited. It's Spagnuolo is a good defensive coordinator. So, if anybody thought we were going to march into that game and repeat what happened in the Super Bowl, I mean, I can break out the bag of magic beans for you again, too. Like, it just wasn't going to happen. The final bullet I have on what I saw when I went back and watched, Jalen is not sharp yet. All right. Now, look, we've come to expect Jalen to be sharp. We've come to expect it. Now, look, he's had games where he only throws for 120 yards. I don't give a shit as long as we win it and he's efficient. This game, there were 3 plays specifically that he completely misread where he should have gone with the ball. There was one where he hits Smitty on an out route. He goes to Smitty on an out route where the safety actually comes up to take Smitty. The corner stays with AJ. AJ's on a go. And, I mean, the minute Smitty breaks, the safety comes up. And if Jalen just takes a look, he's got AJ in one-on-one coverage down that side of the field. And you know my stance on that. I will throw that ball out there every single time with AJ in one-on-one coverage. There was another play. And actually, during the game, Roger and I saw the formation set up. There's, I believe, again, a safety is going to cover Calcaterra. He's got to be 12 yards off him. We need like 7 for the first down. As soon as the ball gets snapped, Jalen, he's just got to go to Calcaterra. Instead, he forces it to AJ. And not only was it a bad decision, it was not a good throw. And thankfully, AJ, physical as he is, was able to, the ball gets knocked away or whatever. It doesn't get picked. There were a few plays like that. His accuracy wasn't quite crisp with the accuracy. You saw that one-hand catch that AJ had to make. It wasn't. He doesn't look comfortable yet. It's like maybe that's the better way to put it. He doesn't look crisp. He doesn't look comfortable yet. I'd like to think that that's early season, new offense, and you're not playing the preseason, so these are your warm-up games basically. Where the first 4 games of any season become difficult to really put your finger on, right? Like, look at the fucking Colts. Does anybody think Daniel Jones is that good? Or do we think that that's eventually going to come crashing back down to earth like the Saints last year? Like, come on here. So those were the 3 things that I saw in our passing game that it's, I would tell you it's slight concern now because we're only a couple of weeks in. If we get to week 5 and this is still happening, I think we've got some deeper-rooted issues. Josh, now the things we have to understand is the team is reviewing this film too and have these conversations and more. So, yeah. No, that's what I'm saying. A slight concern because it feels a little nickish. Overall, no. If we, like I said, we get to week 5 and it still looks vanilla like this and things are looking shaky, then you've got real cause for concern. Right now, it's just something to talk about. Something to keep your guys' eye on. He looks a little indecisive. Looked like maybe he was trying to force it to Smitty and Brown a little much when there was other options, is the way I would put it. On the other side, you had Saquon Barkley, 22 carries, 88 yards, and a touchdown, despite that stacked box and very ultra-aggressive play from the Chiefs. So happy we're sticking with the run. Right, that's always going to be our bread and butter. You guys know my stance. I would like to see Jalen Hurts not have to drop back to throw more than 25 times in a game. And we run the ball 40 to 45 times. That would be the formula. Happy we're sticking with it. But, let's mix it up on first down every so often. You don't have to run it every single time. If you run it on first down, 7 straight series, you pick up another first down, it's okay to call a play action pass. Or just a straight up drop back. Whatever. Mix it up a little bit. We'll be all right. Josh says Jalen's very good on progressing through each season, with the exception of 2023. And that was another time when we had an offensive coordinator get promoted from within. So, like I said, early, no freaking out here. Keep your eyes on it. We'll see how the next couple of weeks go. Saquon, good game, 22 for 88, tough sledding, still got his 88 yards and a touchdown. I am concerned that, part of the concern with the vanilla passing game is that we're not getting teams to back off of Saquon, right? Back off the running game in general. So, multiple reasons to pick up the pace here. Hopefully they will against the Rams. Over to the defensive side of the ball, they look great. That big play late in the game, that got kind of broken. I know it looks like Quinion Mitchell got burned. He really didn't. That was zone coverage, and we got beat. The defense got beat. Poor timing. You kind of come to expect some of that shit from Patrick Mahomes. Really, truthfully, it should have happened a couple of minutes earlier. Scott, this is actually 9 straight seasons where he's had a different offensive coordinator. So before we get to the rest of the defense, I'll ask you, like I ask anyone, they say that Jalen is a system quarterback. Well, this is his 9th straight year when you go back into college. This is his 9th straight year with a different offensive coordinator. When is it where Saquon is when is it that Jalen is the system, not him being a system quarterback? Josh brings up a good point. For the most part, he has been able to progress well and get going. You just got to believe that that's going to happen again this year. All right, the defense. Overall played great. I had to look at Adoree Jackson stinks. Okay. That corner 2 spot it's cause for concern. And I think we knew that going in. I know I talked about it here. Josh and I have talked about it. I've talked about it with a number of Birds fans. The CB2 spot was going to be an area where we just didn't know how it was going to shake out. Keep in mind that Vic does play, and it's not just Vic, it's kind of the whole league. It's a lot of zone defense. So where you think Adoree's getting beat, it's not man-to-man coverage most of the time. Still, though, I just don't think he's all that good. And I think we need an answer at that spot. Makuba, the safety rookie, he looked great. Right? He's only going to keep getting better. Love that. Jordan Davis continues to shine. So he comes into camp 25, 30 pounds lighter. Preseason show that we did, I laid right into it. We did not pick up his 5th-year option for good reason. He had been overweight, looking unmotivated. So this is his contract year, so he comes in better shape, and it's paid off. He leads all of the NFL for defensive linemen in solo and assisted tackles through the first 2 weeks. He has played really, really well. And there's Josh. How do you feel about Jordan Davis so far? Yeah, well, he's been great. First 2 games, he's been really good. Flip side to that is it's been all quiet on the Jalen Carter front. We saw Vic Fangio's comments about, now are we concerned about conditioning with Jalen Carter? Which I know that's the headline that everyone's going to read. But if you actually read the article or saw the interview, Vic also goes on to explain that him and Jalen have talked about this. Jalen has taken responsibility for it, has admitted it. He's also been dealing with somewhat of a shoulder issue, which has limited his practice time. He did not play at all in the preseason or in game 1 because of his stupid spitting incident with Dak. So overall, you have a kid who maybe got a little bit lazy during the offseason, hasn't quite rounded back into form yet, and his reps are down, right? He hasn't had a whole lot of reps. I think Jalen Carter will be fine, and Lord help the league when he gets his feet under him and he gets going, and Jordan Davis playing like this next to him, forget it. From that point forward through the rest of this year, we should be able to enjoy what we thought we were getting when we drafted the 2 of them. So in total, the defense, they held Princess Kermit to a 72.1 passer rating. The Chiefs running backs only averaged 2.9 yards per carry and did not get in the end zone. And we were +2 on the turnovers. Before we just close out with the Rams game here, the turnovers. So in our last 19 games, we are 18-1. The only loss is that one to the Redskins, Commodes, when Frankie Louvu decided to take a cheap shot and knock Jalen out of the game. We were already up 21-7 in that one too, but whatever. So 18-1 in our last 19 games when you include the 2024 playoffs. In those 19 games, the Birds are +31 on the turnover ratio. You heard that right. +31 over that 19-game stretch. That's 39 takeaways and 8 giveaways. Yeah, good stuff. Okay. Let's wrap it up here with the Rams. Rams were the only team that played us tough in the playoffs last year. Green Bay a little bit, but the Rams, I tell you what, without Jalen Carter's heroics towards the end of that game, I'm not so sure what would have happened. They add Devontae Adams, who is proving that he is still, he's only just a couple of years removed from being considered a top 5 wide receiver in football. So he's now back with a competent quarterback. Puka Nacua, as long as he's healthy, is still a lethal threat on the outside. So they're going to come into this game with 2 really good wide receivers. We're still having trouble at the corner 2 spot. Matt Stafford, his back issues that that there was reports about coming into the year haven't really reared their ugly head too much yet. You don't know when that'll happen. The word was he was probably going to have to deal with this week to week all year long. They can run the ball with Kyren Williams. Their offensive line is playing better than most people expected. And their defense, they've drafted really, really well on that side of the ball, and they had to because they were in such salary cap issues that if they didn't draft well, they were going to have a really hard time. So, look, the game's in Philly. Everything I just said, the Rams are good. The Rams are talented. This is not going to be a pushover game. But again, I'll say, we are still significantly more talented pretty much across the board. And I expect to win, guys, especially at home against a team like that. I expect pressure. I expect to I forget. I need to take a look at where is it? Here we go. Let me pull this up real quick here. If it would function. There we go. And the Rams. Rams are 2-0. They scored 47 points. They're not all that far off us. But they got wins over the Houston Texans and the Tennessee Titans. All right, so they look really good in those 2 games, not taking anything away from them. But the Houston Texans, I don't think are. Josh knows. I'm not so sure C.J. Stroud doesn't stink. Since the rookie year, he's regressed all the way. And then the Titans, Cam Ward might end up being a decent quarterback. But Jesus Christ, that team is horrible. Whereas us, we've had to deal with a division rival in week 1, who appears to be a little better than everyone thought they were. And then we had to go to Kansas City week 2. So now we get to come home. We get the Rams. Look, we manhandled them both times last year. The one in LA was the Saquon Barkley legacy game. I think he had 304 yards of total offense or something like that. I was there in LA for that one. That was insane. It was just Barkley everything. Barkley, 302 yards of offense and 2 touchdowns. Yeah. And then he does it again in the playoffs and tears them apart. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen again. I don't expect to blow them out. I never go into a game expecting a blowout, but I do expect to win this game. Um, it's just kind of the way I look at it, man. I get it. The Rams can be a pain in the ass. They're incredibly well coached. Sean McVay deserves votes every year for Coach of the Year. He deserves to be looked at as one of, if not the best coach in football. I get it, Andy Reid. I understand all the history and everything, but what McVay does with less is pretty impressive. So, Birds are the better team. Birds should win the football game. I expect to be 3-0. That's just the way I look at it. Josh, yeah, I saw this. Carson Wentz gets another shot. How you feeling about it? Look, so he's going to get another shot, and Vikings offense is loaded. It's still Carson Wentz. See if he's still playing hero ball. I don't know what to expect out of that. He's now, I think it's an NFL record that he is going to be a starter for 6 different teams in that span of time. So doesn't really say much about him as overall, but here we are. I just overall I'm kind of about it. I don't think there's much to write home about there. Obviously, we'll keep an eye on it and see how he does. McCarthy, they're saying 2 to 4 weeks that he'll be out. Okay, Josh. CJ Stroud has a beat up Chubb in the backfield. I feel like it will get better when he has Mixon on the back on the field. Okay, well, he had Mixon last year and he still stunk. So here's what I'll tell you. I'm not saying it's impossible. He had a great rookie year, so there's no question that it could happen. But I think we're going to need to see it over an extended period of time now before we'll believe it again. I don't want to hear one game where he comes out and lights the world on fire and everybody's, hey, look. No. We've gone a stretch here where he has not been good. So we need to see better for an extended period of time. And then go back to it. One final thing before we get out of here. Cincinnati Bengal fans, I warned you before the season. I felt like your boy was due for another injury. And I will be the first one. I've lived out here since 2006, outside of 3 years in Nashville. I'll be the first one to tell you and admit that I know that the Bengals organization is garbage. I know their offensive line is not good. But you have a quarterback who is injury prone at this point, and it's some by his own doing too. Okay, we can bash the organization and the offensive line all we want. The bottom line is they are still middle of the pack in spending on their offensive line. So it's not like they haven't made attempts. If you really watch a Bengals game, that kid tries to buy too much time in the pocket. I've been on this for a couple of years now. I like Joe Burrow. But I said before the season that I think he was due for another big injury. And if it happened, I was out. And so here we are. I'm out. He's going to have to come back healthy, stay healthy, and perform. And learn something. You cannot play hero ball all the time. He's trying to buy time for chasing Higgins for these big plays all the time. This is what gets him in trouble. All right? We know the offensive line isn't great. Why are we not trying to get rid of the ball sooner? So he's out 3 months now with the turf toe. And when you look at the injuries, it's not like a concussion. It's he's had the knee problems. I mean, you can go back to college where he had to have surgery on his wrist when he was at Ohio State. He had the championship game when he's at LSU. He played good, but he was hurt in that game. This is not news, okay? He has been somewhat this guy. And now here we are again. So Bengals are 2-0 by complete fortune. The Browns dropped 3 crucial passes late in that game, missed 2 field goals, still put up 400 yards total offense and lost. And then the Bengals played Jacksonville. And I'm sorry, but Trevor Lawrence is a bust. Okay. I don't know what more you guys need to see. I was calling him a bust a year and a half ago. This was the highest rated prospect since Andrew Luck when he came out of Clemson. When Luck went highest rated prospect since Andrew Luck, right? When Lawrence came out of Clemson, that's what he was touted as. I don't see it. I don't want to hear about Jacksonville. Okay. Brian Thomas is a good wide receiver. They added Travis Hunter, and he's been a full-time wide receiver, part-time corner. ETN is a decent running back. They got that other kid. I can't remember his last name. He's fast as fucking lightning. The weapons are there. And this kid goes out and can't beat a Burrow-less Bengal team. So you want to talk about being out on someone? I'm definitely out on Trevor Lawrence. Burrow, I feel bad because I like the kid. I like, their offense can be fun to watch. He's too injury prone. It's a thing. At this point, it's a thing. Like, I don't know what more you need to see. And I'm not going to hear all of the blame being put on the Bengals organization and the offensive line. I'm not. You got to watch and understand what you're watching and see that Burrow is a part of why he gets hurt. And I think he's a little fragile. Sorry to say it. Anything else from the room? Josh been vocal tonight. I get you on CJ Stroud, brother. But he's like I said, he's going to have to show it for a good stretch of games that he's back to being that guy before I'll dive back in on him. If that's it, folks, I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to call it a night. I'm going to put an end to this day 3 here of this week's hostage situation. Go hang out with the fam for a few and then get on to Friday Eve. So, for those of you who are in the room now, watch later, or what have you, thank you for joining us. Come on back again next week. We're going to keep making attempts to go to the back porch each week. What I need is someone to come up there and do the show with me. All these guys and girls have these big opinions, but then hey, come on, sit next to me, give your opinion. Hey, I don't want to do it. And it's okay. But we're going to keep trying week to week. And I like to mix it up. I know there's a few people that would come up and do it every week if I asked them to, but I don't want to do that to them. So we'll try to mix it up. If we can't, then we'll be right back here. And then if there's anybody who wants to log on from home, we'll give them that opportunity too. But until next week, folks, this has been the Unhappy Gilmore Show, powered by Green Legion Radio, part of the Green Legion Radio family, and proudly sponsored by Cheerleaders Gentlemen's Club, located at 2740 South Front Street in Philadelphia. Call 215-467-1980 for all of your group and party information. Come on back again next Wednesday. We'll break down the Rams game and look ahead to the game on our schedule that pisses me off the most at Tampa. Until then, folks, take care. Enjoy the upcoming weekend. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. Remember, the judge is not back in until Monday. And as always, go Birds. All right, kids, that's it. Take care. We love you.